it's Ishara here. It's after Thanksgiving and my favorite time of the season, Christmas time, the holiday season. So, today I'm reading at the Urbana Library. Come on, let's go. I am recording from a study room. So, because it's the Christmas season, I'm reading a Christmas book. This book I love it because they turned it into a movie, so I've watched it. And it's also about change, giving, recognizing the past doesn't determine how you will act in the present and the future. You can't change the past, but you can change your future. We're reading the one and only, it's a classic, so it's a classic. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, retold for young readers by McKeown and illustrated by Gerald Kelley. Let's get into this book. Well, when you open up the book, you're unfortunately greeted by bad news, warning you. Jacob Marley was as dead as a doornail. Now you understand that bad news, quote unquote. He died on Christmas Eve. Oh, that's sad. And nobody came, and nobody noticed. Okay, that's a little rude. Well, that started dark. He was not expected at any Christmas parties. He had not invited anybody to his house. Well, now it's just starting to even out. I don't know. It started pretty bad. He had no friends and cared for nothing but his money. Okay. The only person who went to his funeral, although he did not cry a tear, at least he went. At least somebody went. Was his business partner, Ebenezer Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge. Wait, Scrooge? Now he was a hard-hearted, greedy old mister. Oh, well, that took a turn. It always was going south. No winter frost was colder than Scrooge. And no wind blew more bitterly if he had a heart, it was frozen solid. His hair was white, his lips were blue. Maybe the cold. And his skin was pale and cracky. And he spent his days counting his money, and when each day ended, he walked home alone to an empty house where he lived as solitary as an oyster. And that's the way he liked it. So on the second page, you meet Mr. Scrooge. Excuse me. It was Christmas Eve, 7 years to the day since Marley had died, when Scrooge's nephew, Fred, bounced into the office of Scrooge and Marley with a loud, "Merry Christmas!" "Merry Christmas," said Bob Cratchit, Scrooge's clerk, who has been shivering at his desk. Said Scrooge, with a wave of his head. "Humbug! Christmas is a humbug. Fred, why are you here?" To invite you to a Christmas dinner," replied Fred, "and to ask if you would help the poor." Help the poor, asked Scrooge with a nasty laugh. Are there no prisons? Yikes. Rah! To your Merry Christmas. Now get out of my sight, both of you. Oh, he said that to his nephew. So this is the page. Well, I think that's his nephew, and that's Bob Cratchit. And that's Mr. Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge. Scrooge left the office and edged his way through the crowds of carolers and partygoers, stopping only once to swing his cane at a boy who got in his way to sing. In hopes of a penny, he made his way to his house at the end of the grim, lonely street. It was the saddest and gloomiest house in all of London. Wait, they're in London? Oh. He grappled through the darkness for his door. When he came to the step, he was met by... Can you do that again? So to be one take. He grappled through the darkness for his door, but when he came to the step, he was met by an eerie green light. Were there light bulbs in London at his time? Because I don't think so. It was a door knocker. The brass lion's head was gone, and in its place, looking out of the unblinking eyes, was the face of Jacob Marley. Dun, dun, dun! Wait, but Jacob Marley's, I'm not going to say the word, but yes. Scrooge shuddered and grasped. Marley was dead and had no business staring at him where the door knocker should be. He rubbed his eyes and the face was gone. He was just imagining. Phew, there actually wasn't a ghost. Humbug, he muttered as he went inside. Scrooge was normally not afraid of the dark. Darkness was cheap, and he liked it. But on this night he took a candle with him and climbed the stairs to his bedroom. Once there, he chained and bolted the door from the inside. Humbug, he said again, annoyed at being fooled by a trick of light. But as he was about to blow out the candle, every clock in the house began to chime. There came a sound from deep in the cellar, a heavy chain grinding across the floor stone. Up the cellar steps it came down. A boom! Boom! Went the cellar door flying open. Then there was a clank and a clump. The stairs to Scrooge's bedroom coming closer and closer until the sound was right outside his door. The flames in the fireplace leaped up, blinding Scrooge for a moment. And when his eyes cleared, there standing before him was Jacob Marley. Dun, dun, dun! What do you want from me? You will be haunted by free spirits, the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Expect the first one when the clock strikes 1. Ah, said Scrooge, you're nothing more than a bad dream. The ghost let out a hideous cry. Look at my chains, Scrooge. Look at my chains. Scrooge could Scrooge could scarcely keep his eyes off of it. It was made up of purses, cash boxes, and money bags, all clasped together with iron locks. I made it in life, link by link, and yard by yard, and hoarding money instead of sharing my good fortune. Now I must carry this awful weight forever. Your chain will be even heavier than this one. You may have time to free yourself. The ghost vanished. Scrooge looked around his room. The house was silent. Humbug, he said, and blew out the candle. Yikes. Have you ever seen someone look more terrified? Scrooge looks terrified. Well, I get why he thinks that. Scrooge woke in darkness. Had Marley been a dream? Then he remembered his warning. He would be haunted when the clock struck 1. He waited. The minutes seemed long, too long. When finally the clock rang and nothing happened, Scrooge let out a laugh. 1 o'clock, he said, and nothing, all a dream. But then the church bell struck a dull, sad sound, and the bedroom was flooded with light. An old man appeared, the size of a child, with long white hair, but not a wrinkle on his face. In his hands was a sprig of holly. I am the ghost of Christmas past, he said in a gentle voice. Past? Yes, said the spirit. Your past. Arise and walk with me. This is the picture of the page. I see the old man that they depicted. The foggy London streets were gone. In their place were farms and fields, and reminded Scrooge of the days of hopes and joys long forgotten. I know this place, said Scrooge. I was a boy here. Scrooge ran down the country road, passing faces he once knew. Hello, he cried, but the figures were only shadows of the things that had been unaware of the visitors from another time. They next came to a schoolhouse. Scrooge stopped in his tracks. The joy he had felt a moment before was gone. In there Scrooge stammered, Is you, said the spirit, a child left all alone on Christmas. No child should be all alone on Christmas. No child should be alone on Christmas. No child should be alone on Christmas, Scrooge said, and a tear fell from his eye. Yesterday, Yesterday a boy sang to me on the street. I wish I had given him something. The spirit looked at Scrooge tenderly. Come, he said, there is another place you know well. They suddenly found themselves in an office much like Scrooge's, but brighter and warmer and full of people. A gentleman burst through the door where young Scrooge and another man were working. No more of that tonight, lads, he boomed. Clear these desks and make way for a party. Okay. Old Fezziwig, old Fezziwig, old Fezziwig, said Scrooge alive again. In came a fiddler, and Scrooge could hardly keep his feet from moving to the music. Fezziwig twirled around the room, stuffing coins into everyone's pockets. It takes a little of your money to make people happy, said the spirit. Scrooge was ashamed of how stringent he had been with Bob Cratchit. Spirit, he said, remove me from this place. I do not wish to see more. I cannot. These are your memories of Christmas. You cannot forget. As he spoke, Scrooge's bedroom slowly came into focus, and the ghosts flickered away like coals in a fireplace. Scrooge sat in darkness alone by his bed. Humbug, he growled, then climbed into bed and fell into a deep sleep. Ooh, that's... Scrooge woke up in panic. The room was dark. He knew the clock was ready to strike one again, but nothing happened. Minutes ticked by, nothing. Scrooge was just about to say, Humbug, when his bedroom was bathed in golden light. Shading his eyes, he followed the light to the next room. It was decked from floor to ceiling with ivory, holly, mistletoe, and bright berries. In the midst of all of it was a great feast: roasted turkeys and geese, hams and sausages, pudding and pies, cakes and cookies, apples and oranges, and pears. Sitting on the top of a giant man wrapped in a velvet green robe. In a green velvet robe, whose chestnut brown hair crowned with a wreath. I am the ghost of Christmas present, said the spirit. Come closer and touch my robe. Scrooge did as he was told, and found himself flying above the rooftops, looking down on the streets below. Everywhere there was joy and celebration. Scrooge felt like a fool. There was so much happiness on Christmas, even among those who had so little. Why should he, who had so much, be unhappy? They flew past the windows of houses full of people playing games and feasting. In one, Scrooge saw a face he knew well. It's my nephew Fred, he said. Do you think we could stop there, spirit? But on they sped to the outskirts of the city, where the poor working people lived. They came to a shabby cottage, too small for the large family. Sitting down to Christmas Eve dinner, Bob Cratchit came in, and on his shoulders was Tiny Tim, the youngest of his children. He was too weak to walk without a crutch. Aw. The Cratchits, who have saved all year for a fine goose which came out of the oven golden brown before they ate. Cratchit raised his glass, let us drink to the health of Mr. Scrooge, to whom we owe this feast. The children groaned, except for Tiny Tim, who lifted his cup in his frail, trembling hands and said, God bless us, every one of us. Slowly the frowns turned into laughter, and the feast began. Spirit, pleaded Scrooge, is there no help for this family? Are there no prisons? Oh, back to the prisons, really, it was going so well, said the spirit. Church bells started to chime, and the ghost began to fade. If things do not change, the child will die, the spirit said. And the ghost of Christmas present vanished into nothing. Soon Scrooge saw the third spirit moving toward him like a mist along the ground. It was silent, surrounded in a dark black robe, with nothing visible but one pale hand. Ugh, it's creepy. It's a creepy one. You are the ghost of Christmas yet to come, said Scrooge, his voice quivering. You are showing me the things that will be. The ghost pointed into darkness. If you will not speak, then I must follow, said Scrooge. I do not have much time to undo all this misery I have caused. The ghost led him to a forgotten graveyard. Terror gripped Scrooge. Spirit, he said, tell me Tiny Tim is not here in this sad place. The phantom said nothing, but merely pointed to a grave. Slowly, Scrooge looked down at what the ghost was pointing. Slowly looked down at what the ghost was pointing to. It was a rough block of dark stone. It read Ebenezer Scrooge. So if he doesn't give up these dark ways that he is, he's going to die. Well, that's more convincing. No, spirit, no, he cried, dropping to his knees. Why show me these things if I cannot change them? I will change. I will not forget the lessons of Christmas past, present, and future. They will live within me all year long. Tell me I may sponge away the writing on this stone. Scrooge grabbed the spirit's hand, but the black hood collapsed, and the ghost of Christmas yet to come was gone. But there in its place was Scrooge's bed. Scrooge was back home, and he still had time to change his life. I'm alive! He cried. I will wipe away the shadows of what could have been. Church bells chimed, and Scrooge threw open the window and shouted to a boy on the street, What day is it today, my fine fellow? Today? Today, replied the boy. Why, it's Christmas. I haven't missed it then? cried Scrooge. He flung fistfuls of money to the boy. There is a turkey in the market as big as you. Go buy it and take it to Bob Cratchit's house. Then he threw more coins at the boy, who ran off like a shot. What a glorious day it was! Scrooge ran down the street, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, until he got to the home he knew well. I hope they will forgive me, he said, and rapped on the door. His nephew opened it, looking surprised indeed. I have to come for dinner, Fred, said Scrooge, if you will have me, and to add some money to your collection for the poor. Of course, said Fred, turning to his guest and shouting, it's my dear Uncle Scrooge. Scrooge and the family ate and sang and laughed, and when music began, even old Scrooge even danced. I wonder how his dancing skills are now. The day after Christmas, Scrooge arrived at his office earlier than usual. At 9:15, the door opened quietly, and Bob Cratchit snuck in. Cratchit, you're late! Oh, growled Scrooge, pretending to be angry. He's good at pretending to be angry. But Christmas is one day a year, sir, said Cratchit. Not any more, roared Scrooge. Then his smile broke into a laugh. Cratchit, I'm going to raise your salary, and I'm going to help your family. Now go home to then. Sure, you're a good man. For a moment, Cratchit thought Scrooge had lost his mind. Merry Christmas, Bob, said Scrooge with a kindness that could not be mistaken. Scrooge was true to his word. He became a good neighbor, a good citizen, and the dearest friend to Tiny Tim, who grew healthy and strong. And never again did he meet with any ghosts. He lived in the spirit of Christmas past, present, and future. Every day of his life. May the same be to all of us. And so, as Tiny Sim said, God bless us, everyone. The end. So it went from a greedy old mister to a kind old man. Things can change. You, me, your future, really. That's why I like this book, because it teaches people may be rough on the outside because they probably had a rough past, but that doesn't mean they're all bitter. It's a bittersweet situation. This book reminds me of the story of Rahab and the walls of Jericho. So, even though the Israelites seemed to be Jericho's enemies, even enemies could find common ground. So, this book reminds me people can change. No matter how bitter or frosty cold it could be, or somebody who doesn't like Christmas, they could change. They may be just bitter, but trust me, everybody's bittersweet. They always have that rough memory, but still have a little light left. Don't always judge people too quickly. Give them a second chance to prove themselves to you. You never know. An enemy might actually be a friend hiding in plain sight. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye-bye.